Hey, how's it going? And today I wanted to show you yet another way to make a progress bar in Unreal Editor for Fortnite. Just when you thought there were no other ways, there's more! And this is kind of cool because this is completely in verse code using a queue. This is what this looks like if we go into Start Game. And let me just back away here a little bit. So I've got two mutator zones and my verse device in here. The mutator zone on the left will increment the progress bar, and the mutator zone on the right will decrease my score. And this is just a visual representation, although I think you could add numbers if you wanted. So see, I go over this. Every time I enter the mutator zone, you'll see the progress bar goes up. And the thing that's kind of cool about this is that you can change the colors of the progress bar. And this is just using the color blocks to do this. We're using color blocks to make this happen. And then let's say now I wanted to have it set up in the game where I can actually lose progress. If I come over here, you see my progress decreases. So it can go either way. And then this is based on another tutorial that I had just done on the queue, on setting up a queue. And I needed to put in a failsafe once the queue size gets to 0. So once we get to 0, nothing happens. There's no more functionality here. But if I can come over here, then I can start adding to it again too. But then you hard code in how long you want the progress bar to go. So I think I have this set to 14 or 15 blocks, and then it stops, because we'll break the array if we go beyond that. So we had to program in some logic to stop it from going. I think I have it set not to go beyond 12 or 14 or something. But you'll see once I get to a certain point that the progress bar stops incrementing. I think I set it to 14. So see, there I've maxed it out, see? But I don't break the array. But then if I come over here, I can start decrementing it again. So anyway, let's take a look at this in the code. And I'll leave a link in the description to the other tutorial where I kind of go. This is very similar to that one, except we've amended things. So this is a queue system. And we have a class up here called myQueue. And here the false values set how long the length of the array. And essentially what we do is we create a for loop, and we cycle through, and if we find a false, we'll convert it. When this is called, onQueue is called, we'll convert this to a color block. So that's how this works. And then here I modified the original so that we return the queue size. When this is called, I modified this function that it now returns an integer either way, whether it breaks out early or breaks out late, it returns the queue size. So it's kind of interesting, the logic of this for loop here. And then down here, I did the same thing where on DQ now, it didn't return it, it just returned a color block, but now it also returns an integer. So I changed that to a tuple so that when it's called, it returns the queue size. So we needed that queue size so that we could stop the incrementation and decrementation as it went on. So here we have the return of the color block here. And then here's what we call the queue engine, where we create our user interface here, and we set a canvas. And I just played around with these values until I got it kind of where it looked right. And then here we have an add new block function and a delete block function here. And then when we call this here, we make sure to get the queue size out that it returns. And this again, when we call delete block, it returns a tuple, so we get the color block, and we need the color block so we can remove it from the widget. And then once we have that queue size, then we have this. And then here we have, lastly, we have the queue example device. And it's important that the queue be placed above your device. Otherwise it won't see it. And so we have our two mutator zones here. We have an instance of our Q engine so we can reference it. Then we have our current size here. And then here we have essentially two functions or two methods. One is adding a block and one's removing a block. So here we just get our agent and create the UI. And if the Q size is less than 14, then we allow it to keep incrementing. And then down here, when we remove a block, we stop the process once we get to 0. So in another tutorial, I showed how we can break the array if we go beyond it. So this is the failsafe that I had mentioned earlier that we have in there to stop it from going beyond these values up here. So anyway, that's all I had for today. I hope you found it helpful. Take care, have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that I also have a HUD device for the progress bar to have text. So just on that, you just bring in a HUD device for that, and I just have a title here that's quest completed. And just make sure you turn off show for duration, set that to false. And then for the position, I just have it set to top left, for the horizontal 575, and for the vertical 15. That's kind of cool because then you have the more of a custom font instead of using the message text that usually you would do with the user interface. Here we just use the HUD device for the text. So anyway, that's it. So take care, and I'll talk to you next time.